Welcome. Welcome to our first of a series of podcasts on Unbreakable Spirits, of people that have stories of strength and resilience that is unbreakable in many ways and never giving up. And today, for the first podcast, I have Nick Pifani here with me. My name is Maryanne Haggety. I am the owner of Healthy Fitness and Aquatics. I have a virtual and a live business that caters to helping people through building strength over adversity, over setbacks, over whatever challenges life may bring to them. And I am here today with Nick because this is how it all started, maybe 40 some years ago, with meeting Nick when I was teaching in a school, and I needed some help with the audiovisual equipment. And along came Nick. I believe he was about 10 or 11 years old at the time, and he was always there to help. And as the years went by, I developed a wellness center, and I needed to hire somebody. And he was the first person that was there to help once again with changing people's lives and helping them overcome adversity as an exercise physiologist too, and aquatic therapist. So through the years, Nick has been there, and I just want to introduce Nick Pifani. He is a long time friend, but also a hero of mine and of many that has overcome many challenges. Nick is a pancreatic cancer survivor, and through his experience of building strength over cancer, he has taken this to a whole different level, where he inspires others going through the process of dealing with the treatments and overcoming all the challenges, and also how he has progressed through the years of fighting it for others too. So I'm going to introduce Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm great, Maryanne, and thanks for all the kind words and for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I am thrilled that we are able to do this, and I love your shirt, Survivor, as
Yep.
always. As always, as always. Nick is the spokesperson for the Pancreatic Cancer Network, and he also does a lot with the American Cancer Society and with Fox Chase Cancer Center too. So he's extremely busy, but he's also a VP at MasterCard too, and works full time and has a family, and he manages to do so many things. He's an avid exercise enthusiast, triathlete through the years, marathon runner, cyclist. The list goes on, and I know I'm missing a lot, Nick. What am I missing in your building strength over cancer
Yeah,
exercise?
yeah. Well, I guess I don't sit still, right? I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that's always been a constant. But no, I mean, you definitely hit on it. And I was out of commission during the time right when I was sick, but after I got better, I went right back to work, and I have my full-time job at MasterCard, very busy there. But one thing I'll just say is that when it's important, you make time. So when I take a
Yeah.
look at all the advocacy work that's really required and needed, whether it be for patient advocacy or funding for cancer organizations, I make a lot of time to make sure to do those things because it's important and you make time for it. Schedule's a little extra full, but that's okay.
Yeah. I know if anybody could handle it, it would be you. It's like 24 hours in the day, and I'm sure it's like every minute is filled with helping, and also just the strength that you show through the years to get yourself going on a bike, running. It didn't take you long either, from what I remember, because it was right after the surgery. You were right there at the Pancan at the 5K.
I was supposed to run, but I didn't realize I was actually going to qualify for the surgery at the time. So, that was a big day for me, even though that I was only maybe a week and a half out of surgery. But it was the
Yeah.
first day I publicly got to tell my story, did some interviews, and my wife pushed me in a wheelchair, for a 5K. I will say, I think it was the only time I've ever been in a wheelchair. I don't particularly like it, but I was happy to have it that day and for Jen to push me because I was exhausted. But the following
Yeah.
year, I did run it, right? And I've run it pretty much every year, ever since. So,
I know it was amazing, and what an inspiration that you were to show up barely a week after this the surgery
yeah,
too,
well, it
which
was more important for me because sometimes people have a way of characterizing what a cancer patient is, right? And let alone a pancreatic cancer patient. The survival rate when I was diagnosed was 9% for 5-year survival. It's now 13%. For my specific cancer, it was in the low single digits. They didn't expect me to make it a year. And that's why I signed up. I didn't really know about PanCan at the time. So the story behind it is I registered for the race saying, well, most people said I wouldn't make it 6 months. The race is in 9 months. And I just said, I'll probably show up and I'll probably win it. And I had one person, one of my friends, he laughed and he said, well, Nick, like what happens if you don't make it? I said, well, I guess I won't be there for them to say I told you so. So that's just, the attitude I had, the whole way through. So
yeah, the like not letting their definitions, others' definitions, define you has always been one of the things that I've noticed with Nick through the years. It's like he does not let any definition define his ability to achieve and to excel too, which I find has been inspirational to me also, and also in when we were working together with people going through all different kinds of ailments, from Parkinson's to orthopedic issues too. And it's been quite a inspirational journey here. And basically, I guess I want to ask though, Nick, is there any what would you say is the defining moment in your life that has helped you to go through these hardships?
I thought a lot about that question, and I would say that I don't know that there are probably not one. There's probably a couple of moments.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is, I think I've realized over time as I've gotten older, not everyone is fortunate enough to have a strong family. So that was one of the things that I was blessed with a really strong family. Not only were they there, right, to cheer you along, they were there to pick you up, along the way. And I think I realized along the journey, people come out of the woodwork and you really see like who your true friends are and your true family. And sometimes you're going to be surprised positively, and negatively sometimes. Like sometimes you might be a little disappointed. But so I'd say the family part was definitely one. The second part I would have to say is like athletics. Growing up, I played pretty much every single sport. But I learned when I was really young, when I was a track runner, track is not just a physical sport, it's a mental sport. And one of my coaches would tell me that if you can't visualize and see yourself winning, you'll never win. And he was right. And I learned that at an early age. And, the ability to be able to not only like physically be able to endure the exhaustion and pain and everything else that you go through in a race, but there's a mental gymnastics component to it around being able to tell your body to go and keep going when your body doesn't want to. So I would say like that was a big one. And, the last one was, my mom, watching her go through a
Wonderful.
very, yeah, she was an amazing person. And it's so funny. I tell everybody that I used to think like my dad was like, the tough one, and my mom was like the softie. And what I learned is like when my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, um, she was like the badass. She was tough. And, she went through 6 years of enduring treatment. And she never complained. She was always worried about everybody else, making sure everybody else was okay. And the amount of just mental toughness. When people think about toughness, they think about physical traits. I would just tell like the audience, they couldn't be any more wrong. It is it's
Great
all
point.
about mental toughness, and the amount of like I learned a hard lesson from my mom, like during her battle, and I would just say that like she managed it with grace. She always thought about others, and she gave it everything, that she had. So when I think about putting all those things together, I think it shaped things. I will tell, I will tell you and everyone else that I use this statement a lot. I take receipts, right? And I hold them and I don't forget things. So a lot of people get upset when people tell them they can't do things. For me, I'll just take the receipt, I'll remember it. For me, it excites me. I love when people tell me I can't do things, because I will find a way to figure it out and to make it happen. And I think like when you put all those different things together, that's what the difference was for me. When I got diagnosed and I began my journey, that was the big difference.
It's amazing. It's like being told you can't do something and then taking it as a challenge and turning it around and saying, yes, I can. And I'm going to fight
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I call it like the fuel, right? And I love it.
The feel.
I feed off of it. And I think more people should, you know,
Yeah. Because
because
don't live in a perfect world where everything's going to be
no,
easy. It's hard. And we need to build the strength like you are. You take it, you take a negative and you turn it into a positive. And you use that to build strength. The negative being told you can't do something. And it's like, yes, I can.
yeah, and
Yes, I can.
that's actually what I reminded my father, right, when I had to explain to him what was going on with me because
Yeah.
he was really upset. And I just reminded him, I just said, Dad, since when do I accept no? And then he started laughing. And I just said to him, this is no different. This is just another obstacle,
Yeah.
another hurdle. And that's how you have to look at it. And I said, I will give it everything I have. I don't know how to do anything any way else. But people have been telling me no my entire life. And this is no different. I will find a way to make no yes. So, and that was my mission.
And you have been doing it forever, whether it was like, oh, I can't get this audio visual, I can't get this this to work, or whether it's something as simple as that to this guy has Parkinson's and he can't move right, and I'm going to figure out what to do to help him, to yourself coming
Mm,
through the years and saying, hey, I can do this. and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to ride on my bike trainer. I remember you telling me that you were doing that when you couldn't run too.
Oh
And
yeah, I
when
would come home. I would come
and still,
home, I would go
yeah,
on, for my chemo schedule, I would go in for an infusion on a Thursday for 6 hours, and then I would come home hooked up to one drug for 48 hours. So I'd come home sometimes and I would just get on my bike and I'd start riding. And, sometimes my wife would say, "Are you nuts?" And probably a little bit,
I could
right?
imagine her saying that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I will just say this is, and I do believe it, like we are what you repeatedly do. And for me, that's who I was. I have always been an athlete. I've been fit. I've been an exercise person. And to me, like cancer was not going to take that away from me. I knew there was going to be some limitations along the way. That was one thing that I was just not going to I was not going to get let go. And frankly, I turned my nursing staff and doctors around because I was only 42 when I got diagnosed back in 2017. And when you went in for your visits, they would ask you, well, how many times have you fallen in the last week and this and that? And I just said, well, I haven't fallen any times, but I did run 38 miles last week and I did put so and so number of miles in on the bike. And then I slowly started to change the staff's tune where they would ask me, okay, well, how many miles did you run this week, Nick? And they still had to ask the other questions, but they led with those questions because they could tell like the level of frustration that I had was, those questions were meant for somebody that was twice my age, not me.
Right.
So, and that's what I forced them to do is don't treat me like a statistic because I'm not a statistic.
That's
I'll create
yeah,
my own statistic at the end of the day. And that's what I was
yeah,
focused on. And, when your parents used to tell you, like, I don't care what so-and-so got on a test grade. I care about what you
yeah.
got. Right.
What you
So
got? Yeah.
same premise.
I I love it. I love it because that define you changed the paradigm too from everybody putting everybody into a little box of what it should be. And you made the change there to be outspoken on how you approach the healing process, how you approach, how you, well, more than healing, how you fought this, how you conquered this, the strength that you built day by day over this cancer, basically. It's quite remarkable. I mean, the building strength. I remember you telling me the food issue too, and not being able to eat what what like enough nutrients, but you were able to get some in, and it was like I remember it was almost like it was a minimal, but you still
Yeah.
kept the fuel going.
Yeah. And you had to because then I
To,
couldn't do the other things. Right. But it
yeah,
was challenging because with pancreatic cancer, typically what happens is when the tumor size gets bigger, then every time you eat or try to eat, you have a lot of
yeah,
pain, you have a lot of discomfort.
yeah,
And then that's also where understanding like how to fuel your body. And there's lots of different sources of protein, et cetera. So you have to find the ones that work best. And there's not a one size fit all like type of answer because, I have friends that are pancreatic
yeah,
cancer survivors that eat a steak. I can't eat any meat, in my diet. That's just what works
yeah.
best for me. So, I figured it out and I do what's best for me.
That I remember talking to you and what you told me you did through that process too, and it was quite remarkable to keep up the exercise, to keep up your nutrition, and put it all together. But like you're defining challenge was always or not even a challenge. You kept that mindset
Oh,
going?
you could say challenge. You could say challenge
I
because
could say challenge.
I,
Okay.
I will tell you why, right? Is
You
that
made it look like it wasn't. You made it sound
well,
like it.
it definitely was.
Yeah.
For my PanCan team, my team name is called Challenge Accepted. Um,
I remember.
I didn't want to have it. I didn't want to have it to do anything about like my name or anything because it was more about like the the cause, right? And when what I was looking to do. And my challenge really was when I got diagnosed, I was stage 3, locally advanced, inoperable, which meant the only chance I had for long-term survival was to go through treatment and hope that I could become operable. So when you say like it's remarkable that you were able to exercise and do these other things, it was a requirement in my mind because not only did I have to be able to like make it through the treatment, I was told that, the surgery that I was going to get, which was the Whipple, it is the second most difficult surgery to do outside of a liver transplant. It's on average a 10 to 12 hour surgery. And, typically a person loses about 20 to 30 pounds within a week to 10 days after the surgery. So it was really important for me to keep my weight probably a little bit higher than I was normally used to, but at the same time, keep extremely fit. My surgeon kept telling me, like, crank your miles up. So much so, like, I actually ran 6 to 8 miles the night before surgery. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyway, because I knew it was gonna be 7 to 8 weeks until afterwards that I was going to be able to run again. Um,
Yeah. So
so
you were back going ahead of schedule.
yeah, and I just knew that I needed to do everything I could to make sure that I was going to be in the best shape possible. And for me, the hope was get the surgery, and if I do, I have the best surgeon working on me, and I'll make sure I am in the best shape of my life. So then that way, when I get through the surgery, that I'll be able to recover quite well. And when it was an adjustment, but I did just that, right? I was able to
Yeah.
recover relatively quickly. I got out of the hospital in 5 days. And uh,
You were at a 5K and 5 more
wow.
days.
Oh yeah,
Oh
I ran a 10 miler 5 months later.
my God.
But that's just kind of who I am. And you just the mental mindset is really critical and it's really key. And you learn to break down the big goal in the small little subsections. And like that's one thing I would tell the audience, like is it's one it is one it's one lesson in life that you can apply to everything that you do. So if you have a big goal, you learn how to break it down into smaller goals because big goals can be scary for some people.
Yeah.
And if you break them down into smaller goals, then, you have a chance to put some wins up, build some confidence, and build some momentum.
I love it. I love it. Breaking it down into little bite size, if you
Yeah.
will, portions and just conquering, like go for the little steps, the little things that you can accomplish and be successful at to as a building block
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Now I notice on your wall you have uh, a great picture too. I have to bring it up of if you like to explain to
Yeah.
the audience here.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've been a long time runner, and the picture on the wall is the great Steve Prefontaine. He's probably one of the best middle distance runners in US history. Unfortunately, he tragically died, very young in a car accident. He was a remarkable runner, a guy that was ahead of his time, had a lot of confidence. He just was a gutsy runner, left it all out on the field. And, the quote that I love from him, he has several, but to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. So I put that picture up the day after I got diagnosed. It was sitting in a closet.
Oh,
So I
wow.
put it up in my office the next day on purpose because I knew I came into my office
Yeah.
every single day, and it remains there. And it's a reminder of in everything that you do, you should do your best. I tell everyone else, I'm either all in or I'm not doing it. That's kind of who I am. And, I just, you learn to be, I'm a very passionate person about what I do. Um, there's one thing that like really irritates me sometimes when people say, "Oh, you're very lucky." And
Oh,
I'll tell them, I'm like, well, I'm fortunate. I am fortunate, but
yeah.
I do things in life that are with intent and purpose, and we all do. And
Yeah.
I will tell people that for people that know who I am and then know my story, the one thing that they will say is, if anybody was going to beat it, it would be Nick. I'm not surprised. Um, and I do believe
Yeah.
part of that is because I do things with intent. I do them with purpose. Um, and don't get me wrong, sometimes in life you can do everything right and you might not get the desired outcome. I just knew I was not going to lose on effort. And that's like one lesson I used to teach a lot when I coached, is that the
Yeah.
goal is to always win the game. It's to improve and be better every single time that you step out onto the field. But there's one thing that is acceptable and one that's not acceptable. And that is like,
Yeah.
you can never lose on effort. Someone's always going to be bigger, faster, stronger. It's just the way the world works. But you can't lose on effort.
You can't, you know what? It's like, so I guess there is no real failure. The only failure is not trying. Um,
Yeah. Somebody always has it worse. And, again, there's no room in the inn, right, for those kinds of thoughts. You have to focus on, things that are, on the positive elements, right? And you have to,
yeah.
you can do those. It's so important. What I would tell you is like running helped me with that. Because like for me, when I'm running, it felt like my brain and my body was free, right? And it was a
Yeah.
way to just, I tell people like it reset my head. So if I was ever like, maybe just not in a great spot in the moment, I just put on my shoes, go out and run. And it wouldn't matter. It could be pouring rain, it could be freezing cold, be super hot. Doesn't matter. And that really like reset things for me. So
I mean, you are truly an inspiration, Nick. I mean, these are uh, lessons that you've learned, that you showed us how to overcome adversity, and to keep strong through the times that are super challenging, um, downright downright hard, to overcome. Um, I guess you've left us with so many pearls of wisdom here to take with us and hopefully apply to our lives, to keep that strength over anything that we're going through, that it's a challenge, from the physical and the mental aspect of it. I guess emotionally, like you said, you don't have space for the negativity or the can't do you or the failure. And I guess if you could just maybe leave us with some tidbits of how you overcome it.
yeah, I think it's a state of mind. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting. Like when you're younger, I hit a certain point, and I'll be really honest, I didn't care. Like, I figured my friends love me for who I am, my family does, and everything else. Like, I knew how tough the diagnosis was. I knew it, I understood it, but you have to make a choice. And the choice is, like, when you get knocked down, you have two options. You get up and fight, or you stay down. I didn't have that option, right? And that's just not who I am. And I would tell people, like,
Yeah.
get up, right? And most of us will have friends or family that can be there to help support you and help you get up. It was one thing that I also think helped us along the way, which was we, live in a small community. My wife is a teacher. My kids were young at the time, right, in schools. We made the decision to tell everybody what was going on because we thought it was important, because the kids might need support. My wife might need support. I will tell you that in this world, sometimes people get focused on the negative, which is like all the bad things in life that happen. I will tell you, you could focus on the positive. And the positive that came out of sharing everything else was the overwhelming amount of support in ways that people wanted to help. And that you can't do it alone, no matter how strong you think you are. That's one thing I learned along the way, is that you have to learn how to accept help, let other people help you, in some of those ways. But, you know, not everybody's a runner, not everybody's a biker. I tell people to just think about an activity. When I talk to newly diagnosed patients every month, I tell them, like, what activities bring you joy? And I tell them, like, I was, I'm mentoring one patient. He's a surfer. He loves to surf. And
Oh,
I told him,
wow.
I'm like, well, you need to get out there and you need to be surfing. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
say that because it makes him happy. And for me, running was that thing, right? And if you do the things
Yeah.
that make you happy in your living, it has very positive, impact and output to your attitude. And attitude is everything. Again,
Yeah.
you can you can tell from a team that believes they're going to win when they show up onto the field versus the team that doesn't think they have a chance, right? So
Yeah.
you have to go into that match knowing I have an opportunity and a chance to win.
Yeah. That I can do this. I can do this. And movement makes us happy. Movement makes us be able to do what we can do and be functional. I know that's why when through the years, you were the inspiration in me starting this business too, as a cancer exercise specialist, in addition to what I have done for the last 40 years. But hearing your process of going through what you went through and saying, okay, not everybody is a runner or a cyclist or a triathlete, but there's something that everybody can do at whatever level. And there's some things that are specific to different types of cancer that I could make a difference in helping guide people through. And that's was the inspiration. You were the catalyst that got me thinking along those lines as a cancer exercise specialist too. And
Yeah, and
hearing what
exercise is
you
so
went through.
important.
Yeah.
It's so important,
Yeah.
I said earlier, right? Like the doctors and nurses kept
Yeah.
asking, how many times did I fall, right? But,
Yeah.
like someone like yourself,
I
Mare,
know.
like in working with patients, you can work with them on, you know, exercise regimen and different things that will keep their body strong, right? Keep their
Yeah.
hand-eye and their foot coordination strong, right? To perhaps prevent those things from happening, because when they do, then they become setbacks, for treatments.
Yeah.
And if there is a surgical component, then to cancer treatment, in addition to your regular treatment, that just means you need to be stronger. And they told me, like, okay, every day you're in the hospital is a week recovery. That's what they would tell you. So, so it's so important to make sure that, your body, your mind and your body are ready for it. And, if they work with someone like yourself, then they build confidence. And when you have somebody build confidence, I always say, like, it could be a very contagious and dangerous thing, which is great. Because if you think you have a chance, you're already halfway there, right? And that's what you need, right? It's the difference. And I will share, like, I had an over the top moment, like during my treatment. So I had just finished up my chemo and finished up my radiation, and I went back to see my surgeon. And my wife and I were prepared for the worst. It was one of those appointments where you had your scans, you go back, and you see that things change. Did you see enough improvement to have surgery? And we came out of that appointment, and my wife was in tears, crying, tears of joy, right? Because she could not believe I was going to be a surgical candidate. But I knew walking out of that building, that day, I didn't think I was going to win. I knew I was going to win because, and I do mean that.
That's you, Nick. That's you.
I walked out of that office, and the first person I did was I called my father and I told him, I said, I'm having surgery next month. I just told him, I said, I said, there is no doubt in my mind I'm going to beat this thing because, I have the best surgeon on the planet working on me. That was that moment where I knew for the first time I got the upper hand. And once that point came through, I was like, holy smokes, here we go.
I know. It's like amazing, your strength of character, everything that just, really brought you along the whole way.
It's persistence. It's definitely persistence. Advocating for yourself, not accepting no. If you didn't think perhaps like you got the right answer, then you get a second, third, fourth opinion. You do what you need to be able to do, to get to where you want to be. And, that's all I knew. And that's what I focused on. I focused on if I knew for myself, if things didn't work out, I could rest easier at the end knowing I did everything. I left no stone unturned. I did everything. And ironically, that's what my surgeon said, the day I showed up. He said, you did everything I asked you to do. And, fortunately for me, treatments worked. And, I became a surgical candidate and had, a 12-hour surgery, and, and the rest is history. And, next year will be 9 years. So we're stacking the years up.
I know. 9 years. What month?
March.
Wow. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Wow. I know. I think our audience right now is inspired beyond belief to know about this Nick's story of an unbreakable spirit and the strength and the resilience that he had to put together in order to be a survivor, and did put together, and never gave up. Still to this day helps others not give up. I guess if there's any one quote I could leave everybody with from you, Nick, I don't want to put you on the spot for it, but you have many good
I've
quotes.
got one for you. I've got one for you. It's okay if you fall down, because we're all going to fall down. However, you have to respond and get up, right? You don't have to do it alone, right? Let your family and your friends be there along the way. You know, being able to win in a battle is not just about, you know, putting up wins all the time, because it's just not realistic. It's not what happens in life. You get knocked down.
Yeah.
It's learning how to get back up, and also like sometimes letting others help you too along the way, because no one person can really do it alone. And that's really why I talk to so many newly diagnosed patients every single month, because when I first got diagnosed, I was alone. I did not know much about the disease. Now I know more than I probably wish I probably would know about it.
I'm sure.
But that was one of the things that I had promised myself I would change, which is that if there are newly diagnosed patients, that they shouldn't have to go through it alone. And it's why I make a point of doing it. And it's why like being a survivor is not in the rear view mirror for me. It's part of who I am. I'm a slightly different person now than I was before. And I don't ever want to forget that, right? And so that's why I give my time, because I remember what it was like during a tough and a dark and a difficult time. And my thought is that if I can help one person, just one person, think like, hey, I can do this, then I did my job. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. You helped. I'm sure all of our listeners right now are very inspired. I'm more inspired, and I've known you for over 40 years, I think. Now, and I get more inspired every day. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. I just, when I say that we have unbreakable spirits here, it's remarkable and unbreakable. And thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. Well, thanks everyone again. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. This is Nick Pifani. I would tell anyone that if you are a pancreatic cancer patient or survivor, and you need help and resources, you should go to pancan.org. They have free patient services that are available there. So again, I would urge you to go to pancan.org.
Excellent. Excellent. And also, I'm Maryanne Haggety. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology, and I am the owner of Healthy Fitness and Aquatics.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and now I'm on with podcasting on different platforms from Substack to Spotify to YouTube also. So we're here for you to help assist, and I hope we can help.